Thanks for watching Here to Stay TV. I'm Glenn Hausman coming at you from New York City. And I want to talk a little bit about real estate today, so I brought in Janine Yorio of Compound with me. And you know, Janine, this is an interesting story to me because you're helping folks start with the beginning phases of investment. They don't have a lot of money, but you're helping them get into places with real estate.
We are. Thanks, Glenn.
Yeah, my pleasure.
So, yeah, what we're trying to do is create a product that's designed specifically for this new breed of consumer behavior where people aren't buying homes. Younger people either are saddled by student debt or they don't have the money for a down payment, so they don't necessarily have a way to participate in the price appreciation that comes from home ownership. But that doesn't mean they don't want to. So what we've done is create investment products that you can invest in with as little as $100. And we're focused initially on markets that tend to be expensive for younger or inexperienced investors. So in Manhattan, for example, the average apartment costs $2 million. So if you don't have $500,000 to put down as a down payment, you're basically shut out of this economy. And over the last decade, 2 decades, prices have gone up an average of 10% a year. So that's a tremendous wealth creation opportunity you've missed out on.
Janine, I missed out on it. I got to tell you, because I lived in New York City my whole adult life, and I always rented, and trying to cobble together that down payment was so much pressure. And I think of the brownstones I could have bought in the 1990s in Brooklyn, which incidentally were hardly anything, and now we're $3, $4, $5 million. So can we go back in time, perhaps, and get me on this program 25 years ago?
That's exactly the story that we are trying to communicate to our consumers. Is that, I mean, everybody knows somebody who bought an apartment or a brownstone or a loft in Soho 20 years ago for peanuts, and now it's worth millions of dollars. If you pick the right neighborhoods, the price appreciation was even more than that 10%. So what we want to do is give people the opportunity to start today. It's not too late because the beauty of Manhattan is it's an island. It's surrounded by water on 4 sides. There's an 843-acre park in the middle of it. There'll never be more of it. And the first thing that people do when they become wealthy, whether they're Dallas oil tycoons or Middle Eastern sultans, is they come and they buy an apartment in New York City. We want to make that something that everybody can do and fundamentally change the ownership landscape in cities like New York. So we're starting in Manhattan, but we also want to launch products in markets like San Francisco and eventually in places like London, Shanghai, Hong Kong, cities where there's huge workforces that cannot afford to buy real estate there.
Okay, so how does this work exactly? I have $100. Is this a $100 monthly investment, or is it pay as I can go? And then what happens to my money once I give it to your company?
So we have created investment products. They're SEC qualified, so all of our filings are available online the same way that they would be if you were investing in shares of Amazon or Apple. So it's an investment product. You invest in shares. You buy shares in what is a real estate investment trust. It's a
which is also known as a REIT.
A REIT, exactly. And you hold those shares. And today you hold them through our web app, which is compoundny.com. But in the future, they will trade on the New York Stock Exchange, so you'll be able to trade in and out of them just like you would any other liquid security or a mutual fund.
Wow, that's fantastic, and especially when you're looking at New York real estate, it's going up, as you said, 10% on average a year. And it's an amazing idea for an investment opportunity, especially for those younger folks. And I got to tell you, thinking maybe I should get involved in something like that too. Is it too late for an older guy?
It doesn't have to be just about young people. What we want to do is make the decision to invest in real estate as small as possible. So you don't have to think about it as, oh my gosh, I've got to go to 50 open houses and get all my friends to put in 50 grand each. I can make a small decision today, and as I grow more comfortable with this investment strategy, I can invest more money. So it's not just for younger people, but it's for people who don't necessarily know how to transact on these great ideas they have when they're walking around their home city.
Well, we don't get any financial education here in the United States when we go to school, so we're not taught to start saving from a young age, so it's always feel like we're behind the 8 ball when it comes to trying to cobble together that money. So what happens? I've invested with you for, say, 10 years. I'm ready to buy a place. Do I remove my investment from Compound?
If you need your money, you would sell your shares just like you would sell any portion of your portfolio.
The REITs are such a great idea, and I've watched them develop over the last 20, 25 years within the hospitality industry, and it's really transformed it by, separating the real estate from the functions of the building, which I've always thought was very fascinating. So how does this play into today's lifestyle for millennials and folks that don't want to necessarily be tied down to one city for their whole life?
So whether you're a digital nomad and you live around the world, which is a very, very small percentage of the population, or you're just a regular person that doesn't necessarily want to be locked into a 30-year mortgage, you can still participate in the wealth creation opportunities. And that's a big consumer shift. People don't necessarily want to buy a big McMansion in the suburbs, fill it with china that they registered for at their wedding. People are doing things differently today.
Well, let me tell you, I had a big fight with my fiance at the time and my mom, who insisted we have to have the good china. You have to have the good china, have not used the china.
Hate the good china. Hate the good china. I mean, why would you have all these possessions? They tie you down. And millennials and I think their way of thinking has really infected even people who are beyond the millennial generation.
Well, I'll tell you, Janine, I think as a society we're really shifting from the materialistic society represented by the china that we were talking about to more of the experiential society, which is represented by more of that global nomadic point of view that you're talking about.
And just freedom.
Yeah.
I don't want to be tied down. I want to be able to move to Paris for the summer with my family if that's an option, and that means freeing up my capital as well.
Interesting. So where does all of this go in the future?
So we see the opportunity as one where we are reimagining an entire industry for a younger generation. REITs came of age in the 1960s, and then they really became a bigger industry in the 80s and 90s. But over time, REIT ownership has shifted from individual investors to institutional investors. And it's time to take that ownership back. So we're creating products that feel like ETFs, which are thematic and geographically specific, reducing the investment minimum so that everyday average investors can participate, and making it really plain and simple what we're buying so that we can take a $4.3 trillion industry, which is how big the REIT market caps are today, and make it something that millennials know and understand. The same way that they've come to love crypto, they are gonna love REITs.
Great, and I think it's a lot more secure when you're talking about New York real estate than cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, I mean, New York City, like I said, it's never going anywhere. And aside from global warming, Manhattan's here to stay.
All right, so Manhattan's here to stay, unless, of course, we sink into the sea. But until then, a great investment. Any final thoughts?
No, just visit us on www.compoundny.com or follow us on Twitter at GetCompound.
And thank you for doing the shameless plug without prompting. I love that. So thanks to Janine Yorio from Compound. I'm Glenn Hausman for Here to Stay TV. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.